Pacific Telephone presents Helen Parrish on It's a Good Idea. Miss Parrish's guest tonight, Paramount's Academy Award-winning fashion designer, Edith Head.
Hello, I'm Helen Parrish, and this is Oscar. I thought it was a good idea for you to meet Paramount's First Lady of Fashion, Miss Edith Head. Good evening. As you know, this is Oscar, coveted symbol of the Academy Award, and the highest tribute possible in any field of the motion picture industry, production, acting, or costume design. And in Edith Head's office at Paramount, there are 4 such Oscars. We persuaded her to bring one of them along to show you tonight. This is the one you got for A Place in the Sun. A Place in the Sun. She also has them for The Heiress, All About Eve, and Samson and Delilah. And this year, Edith Head is nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one for Carrie in black and white, and the other for her part in the color costumes of The Greatest Show on Earth. Say, you've had quite a career, Edith. You know, in order to accomplish so much, you must have done nothing but think about fashions from the time you were in the paper doll stage.
You know, Helen, as a matter of fact, I wasn't a designer. I started my career as a school teacher.
As a school teacher? What did you teach?
I taught Spanish in high school.
Well, that's a far cry. It must have been interesting, too, though.
Well, it's pretty different from designing.
Well, tonight, though, we want to talk about your fashions, mainly. It must be wonderful to be a Hollywood fashion designer, be able to sit at an easel and just sketch anything you like all day long.
You know, it's strange you should say that, because a lot of people think Hollywood designers just dream up things they want to without regard for story. But actually, we pretty much are told what to do by the script.
Oh?
See, we're given a script, and the script says, this is a girl, it could be Rosemary Clooney, she's a girl who has a lot of money, she does this and that. Now, let me show you. I think it's easier illustrating with sketches than just talking. Now, this is a dress designed for Rosemary Clooney.
Oh, then it must be from, oh, yes, it is. From her very first picture, The Stars Are Singing.
That's the one.
I saw it. It's wonderful. It has little Anna Maria Alberghetti, Lawrence Melchior, and a lot of terrific new faces. Very good picture.
Well, I want to tell you about the dress. Now, you can say, why did I do this dress? In the picture, it has to be a white dress because the screen calls for it because the other people are in colors. It has to be a polka dot dress because the other people are in plain fabrics. And, as you probably know, Rosemary whirls around like a dervish when she sings, so we had to have a full skirt.
In other words, you were more or less told what to do before you even started. We have a photograph of Rosemary wearing this dress. Yes. I think you're going to let them see it now. There she is, singing. See all the stars around from The Stars Are Singing?
You know, I think it would be even more important to see the dress itself.
Oh, could we?
We have a model here. Lovely Margie Millar in the actual dress worn by Rosemary Clooney.
In the same position, looks just like her, you know.
Would you mind whirling like a dervish like Rosemary does?
A little song with it, perhaps?
You see why we do full skirts?
Oh,
and
yes,
you notice
I do.
the little collar at the neckline?
Yes.
That is done deliberately, so in close-up that, you know, Rosemary looks as though she had on an interesting collar.
And it's so much more flattering, too, in a close-up, isn't it?
Notice we emphasize sleeves. All of these things are done so they can be coming to a girl on screen and also so they can work. The dresses do have to work.
Well, Edith, did you have any other particular problems in designing clothes for the part that Rosemary plays in The Stars Are Singing?
No, we really didn't, because you see, in this picture, Rosemary plays plain, ordinary American working girl, doing plain, ordinary American job. I think she's trying to be a singer, as a matter of fact.
Yes, sir.
And the picture goes over quite a period of time, and we had the problem of, well, not changing every time. In other words, we want you to believe that she has a lot of money. So do you want me to do sketches again, show you?
Yeah.
I think it's easier.
Here, how about this pointer? Would that
Once
help?
a school teacher, always a school teacher.
That's right.
No, but this is what I mean. You see, Rosemary is a working girl, and most girls do have tailored suits. So she has a blue suit. In one scene, she wears it with what we call a jabot or a collar. Then in another scene, we say, well, she can't wear the same dress, so we take off the coat, she wears a vest.
Makes it look like a different outfit entirely.
Then in still another scene, she wears a blouse. In other words, we're stretching the same costume so you won't get tired of it. Now, can you help me with that?
Yeah, there we go.
Now, in another scene, you see we're saying she's going out into the country or something or other, so she wears a sport coat, still the same skirt, by the way, and a sweater. Then there's another scene where she's at home and it's supposed to be rather informal, so we made her suspenders fastened to a vest with the same skirt.
Oh,
Looks like a different outfit, but it's still
that belt is right on the suspenders, huh?
That's what we call in studios costume stretchers.
I see what you mean. Well, I think it's a very good idea for our home viewers to find out how they can stretch their suits, too.
Because it truly works. We found out it did on the screen.
I should say, you don't have a suit with you tonight, do
Matter of fact, Rosemary Clooney's wearing it. I couldn't get it away from her.
I see what you mean. I don't blame her. But you did bring another beautiful dress, I saw.
Yes, I brought another dress which illustrates what I'm talking about problems. You see, if it weren't for problems, you'd just go out and buy dresses for stars. But there's another picture called Off Limits, and it has a lovely blonde called Marilyn Maxwell in it.
Oh, yes, that's with Bob Hope and Mickey Rooney. isn't
And
it?
in this thing, there's a scene where there's a fight. Very exciting cafe scene.
Real Bob Hope
A
riot?
real Bob Hope riot. And parts of the dress have to, shall I say, disintegrate.
Oh, in a respectable fashion.
Oh, in a very
of
nice
course.
fashion. But now you can buy a dress and you can tear the hem, but an average dress doesn't, come apart at the right places at the right time.
Well, this dress I want to see.
Yes,
but
I want to show you.
But right now, I want you and everyone to meet Mrs. Mary Jeffers, who's a long-distance operator for Pacific Telephone in Long Beach. And she's Hal Gibney's telephone guest tonight. Hal?
Thank you, Helen. And from what Mrs. Jeffers was telling me, I imagine that she was probably the most determined young lady who ever applied at the Long Beach office.
Well, Mr. Gibney, most little boys want to be firemen or pilots, but when I was 11, I wanted to be a telephone operator.
The ripe old age of 11, huh?
Yes, because about that time, one of my aunts, who was an outfitter, took me through her telephone office.
Well, I can imagine that a little girl like that would be really impressed with so many calls being placed all over the country.
I was so impressed, I wanted to start to work right then.
Well, I don't suppose you had much luck at convincing the Pacific Telephone people that you should be hired, though, huh?
Well, I really didn't start insisting they give me a job till I was a freshman in high school.
And still no luck?
No.
Oh.
The employment counselor suggested I wait till I was a little older.
Well, I think along about there I'd have gotten discouraged.
No, I waited for each birthday to come around and went down and applied again.
You see what I mean? It takes a lot of determination. And it was this same determination that brought all of your dreams, wasn't it?
Yes, I was hired shortly after I graduated from high school.
And I imagine it's even more exciting to be an operator now than when you were 11 years old because of this, what is it, key pulse equipment that you have to
Yes,
work?
We just press a few keys and ring telephones in cities clear across the country.
It's amazing. Well, then I'd say that telephone work has turned out very well and brought you everything that you wanted.
Well, everything I thought it would be, and a little more, Mr. Gibney.
Oh, even more?
Yes, indeed. One of the new friends I made at the telephone company introduced me to my husband. So I feel that telephone work is indirectly responsible for my happy marriage.
Well, you certainly hit the jackpot, Mrs. Jeffers, and thank you very much for being here, being our guest on our program tonight. And now, back to Helen Parrish.
Thank you, Hal, and thank you, Mary Jeffers. Edith, I'm very, very anxious to see this dress that has to live through a riot. But first I want to ask you, when there is a riot scene like this, do you know ahead of time that there will be such a scene and just what must take place?
Of course, you see, it's perfectly timed, just like a television show or a prize fight. In other words, I know what should happen on cue, because you just can't suddenly keep making dress after dress. In other words, if you have a dress that has a special purpose, you design it to do what it has to. You know, a dress is like an actor in a motion picture. It has to do things.
This particular dress really had to act. Well, it would be very expensive for the company, of course, if you had
Let
to
me
keep
show you
making
again.
them. Oh, yes.
I'll let you
Ooh,
show
this is
with
it.
sketches. It's a black lace dress over black net, and in the scene, some things happen. In other words, the little black lace thing has to come off. A couple of the panels come from the skirt, you see.
At exactly the right moment.
At the
of course.
strategic moment, we
I
call it.
see. Well, Marjorie Millar is going to model this for us, too.
And here she is.
Oh, my, you know, she looks just as good in this as she does in the dress that was an entirely different type dress that Rosemary Clooney wore.
She's a wonderful model, and incidentally, this is something you don't know. Margie's going to make a test for Paramount next week, and if it's all right, next time she's on television, she may be wearing the dress I've designed for her as a star.
That would be exciting for her, wouldn't it?
Would you mind revolving a little like Marilyn did? Incidentally, Marilyn sings in the song, too. Now, you see the little thing on the shoulder?
Yes. How in
That's
the world
what you
is
call
that thing?
conversation piece jewelry.
I should
Well,
say.
in the middle of the song, something happens. You have to see the picture to know about this, and that comes off. You take it off for me?
Oh, just like that.
Mhm.
That's simply, huh?
And you see the different panels on the skirt?
Mhm.
Well, as the fight progresses, different panels of the skirt just accidentally drop off on the floor. On cue, of course, you
Oh,
see.
naturally. Now, exactly how does it tear, Edith?
That is exactly why you have to go to the picture. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell you about it.
I'm sorry. Well, you've sold one ticket anyway, and I hope you've sold a lot more. Now I'm going to put you to work and ask you to give us a few fashion tips for our own wardrobe. Would you mind getting into your school teacher role and going to
No,
the
you think
blackboard?
women really like to know about things like this?
I'm sure they
What?
do. You know, I know from past experience talking to Edith that she believes that a great many women don't dress the way they should to complement their figures and types. So now I'll see if she can't help us with that problem.
Now, this is a school teacher speaking as well as a designer.
Of course.
You know, there are 4 major problems, your pupils. There is the woman who's too tall, the woman who's too short, the woman who's too thin, and the woman, unfortunately, who is too heavy. Now, if you're too tall, we have found out through mathematics and designing, you try to cut yourself in half. In other words, you can do it, as I've done here on this sketch, with a color. In other words, you wear a dark skirt and a light top. Or you can do it with the use of a broad belt. Or you can do it with the use of a of a tunic. Anything that breaks the height problem. Oh, and by the way, anything that is dark makes you look smaller, so if you're heavier below the hips, you wear the dark skirt. If you're heavier up top side, you put the dark up here.
That figures.
Problem? Now, if you are too short, and there are a lot of short women too, really, you do exactly the opposite. You wear all one color. You naturally wear up and down lines. If you wear a scarf, you wear the scarf that has a figure that goes up and down, and you never cut yourself amidships with a wide belt. Wear a narrow belt. Also, you wear rather slim necklines and not heavy shoulders and rather tight sleeves. This all has worked out, you know. I'm not making this up. Then, this is the problem, the great problem of women, if you are too heavy. If you're too heavy and you can't do anything about it, you try to wear, as I said before, with the other problem, an up and down line, and you try to wear jackets. In other words, a two-piece costume is much safer. Because, for instance, in this sketch, if this gal has terribly big, a big waist or big hips, you can't tell whether it's the coat or the waist. It's what we call camouflage. And naturally, you wear the up and down line. And as I said before, you try to minimize the largest parts of your anatomy with the darker colors. And the main rule is never, never, never wear anything that's too tight. You know, most people don't realize this, but if you're fat or thin, never wear tight clothes because it emphasizes. Of course, if you're thin, I don't think it's any problem because thin people are very smart and easy to dress. But if you want to look heavier, you wear deeper armholes, wide belts of a contrasting color, and fuller skirts, and scarves if you want. You believe me?
I certainly
Because these all actually work, I know.
I think all these basic problems started when you were a school teacher of mathematics.
And I've proven them on the screen.
I see what you mean. Well, I'm sure everyone got a lot of good ideas about how to dress better from those. Right now, Hal Gibney has a few words for us about a wonderful group at Pacific Telephone.
Right, Helen. Pacific Telephone offers young women an amazing variety of interesting jobs. And I'd like to tell you about just a few of them as the camera takes us through a typical telephone building. Here's a service representative in a business office. Her job is a satisfying one, helping the public every day. And here's one of the first ladies of the telephone business, an operator. There's something fascinating about a switchboard like this. Each flashing light tells its own story. Or let's go behind the scenes in the telephone world. Whether you're interested in accounting, clerical work, or other office jobs, you'll be almost sure to find the right job for you at Pacific Telephone. You'll work in clean, pleasant offices. And there are comfortable lounges, too, almost like living rooms. Telephone pay is good, even while you're learning. And you'll get regularly scheduled raises, paid vacations, have the convenience of a cafeteria in many offices. That's why telephone jobs are good jobs. So why not drop in and talk it over soon? Here's where to go. In Seattle, come to 2nd and University, or call Mutual 9000. In Tacoma, come to 757 Fawcett Avenue, or call Market 5161. That good job that you've been looking for may be waiting right now at Pacific Telephone. And now, back to Helen Parrish.
Thank you so much, Edith, for visiting us and also for bringing Oscar along. We
I
really
like being
appreciate
here.
that.
I think I better take him back with me, don't
I
you?
think you better. Don't let him get away from you. I particularly like all those tips about clothes. I think that's something we could all use.
It was
in
fun
real
being a
life.
school teacher again.
It was?
Mhm. I liked
Well,
it.
I'm glad you had fun. We enjoyed having you, too, Mary Jeffers. Did you get a few tips on clothes there?
certainly did.
Do you believe what I said?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Marjorie Millar, for modeling those two
Well, I
beautiful
enjoyed
dresses.
doing it very much. Thank you for letting me do so.
Next week, we have a most unusual and a very exciting guest. It's James Yao, who's known in the Orient and this country as the Pearl King. So until then, this is Helen Parrish saying good night, and meeting you was a good idea.
Next week, It's a Good Idea brings you Helen Parrish with her guest, pearl expert James Yao. Clothes for Helen Parrish are by Orbots. This is Hal Gibney reminding you there's a good job for you at Pacific Telephone.